Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you all here today for Ahead of the Curve with e-commerce, where we'll be talking about how OSSCube and Magento can put your organization in control in today's changing e-commerce landscape. But first, we'll get some of the logistics out of the way. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar, which will be addressed following the presentation. For those who may be new to the GoToWebinar interface, you can type in your questions on the webinar panel under the Questions tab. A recording of this webinar will be available on OSSCube's website Monday. You'll receive a link to it via email when it's online. Following up with OSSCube is easy. The full contact information will be displayed at the end of the webinar. You can always email info@osscube.com. If you're reviewing this live, the chat feature is also a great option to get in touch with us, or even feel free to reply to the confirmation email for this webinar. Finally, you can get the latest updates on OSSCube by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, or linking with us on LinkedIn. I'd now like to introduce our two guest speakers. Rakesh Kumar is the Vice President of Technology at OSSCube. He has architected some of the largest and most popular applications in the world. For example, MakeMyTrip.com, which is one of the largest travel websites and currently ranks 660 on Alexa. Today, Rakesh is working with OSSCube clients to advise on how to create technology platforms that can meet their long-term business objectives. We also have John Bernard, the Executive Vice President of North America. He brings over 20 years of thought leadership and a track record of growing market share for large companies such as IBM Global Services and smaller companies like FileMark and Plan & Associates. Under John's leadership, OSSCube was recognized as an Inc. 5000 fastest growing private company in 2014 and will easily achieve this recognition again this year. The format of this webinar is pretty straightforward. We'll begin with a quick intro into the challenges faced by the retailers in today's assisted e-commerce society industry. We'll then cover how the Magento platform provides you with the necessary tools to meet these challenges and the typical benefits you could expect over other solutions. We end with a case study demonstrating some real-world challenges customers face and how OSSCube worked with them to reach success. At that point, we'll transition into the question and answer session where our guest speakers will have a chance to answer your questions. At this point, I'd like to pass it off to John Bernard to start us off.
Thank you, Samir, and thank you everybody for taking the time to work with us today. I think back over the years I've been in technology, and it wasn't all that many years ago I was working for Digital Equipment Corporation, and we created the very first online ordering tool called Deck Direct, where you went to your green screen terminal and you could actually order things directly from digital. Since those days, it's unbelievable how e-commerce has changed, and the pace of change continues to go even faster and faster and faster. Today, you expect to be able to order anything from anywhere you are, so if you're at work or at home, you want to be able to notify your friends if you find something you like and you want them to also buy it. You don't care if you're in your car, you don't care if you're on vacation, you want to be able to get it. And oh, by the way, any device you happen to have, you want to be able to order through any device. So things have changed very dramatically. And the one thing over the last couple of years that's even impacted is payment methodologies. Used to be we used good old American greenbacks, then credit cards. Now we have Apple Pay, Google Wallet, and all these other alternative payment methods. And those are all coming into play now because as you use those to maintain your security and privacy, those have to be available to you to buy things as well. So the rules continue to change, and the pace of change continues to go faster. So if you're not keeping up with that pace of change, it's a good likelihood that a lot of your competitors will just run right by you and get your customers away. If you look at research that's done by eBay very, very recently, it's interesting that how the pace of change continues to grow. Today, more than 2/3 of all consumers expect to be able to use their smartphones to be able to buy things. 93% of us expect to be able to order or pick up online. So it's amazing how our society is switching so that if we want something to come to our house, we expect it to be able to be delivered to our house. I don't know if we're quite all in alignment with drones yet, but we want delivery nonetheless. In terms of being connected, I want to be able to wake up in the middle of the night and be able to buy something or look something up, or I want the choice to be able to find it anywhere through any device I have. So when you look at these numbers, it's very, very clear consumers are demanding the ability to use any device, anytime, anywhere, and have a great user experience to be able to not only select the product, to be able to have it delivered to their homes. So these are all big considerations as you're thinking of the platform or how you want your e-commerce strategy to move forward, because without that experience and that convenience, you're not going to win. Magento is a platform that we're very familiar with and we use a lot, and it's really a beauty because it's open source. One of the things that I find between open source and proprietary applications is open source allows us to configure the application to meet your exact needs. If you use a proprietary application, typically you're constrained by what it lets you do. When you hear the case study a little later on in this briefing, you're going to understand why the client moved from a proprietary application to an open source application. Adapting to your business is very, very interesting, because I've worked with a lot of businesses over the years, and I've never seen two exactly the same. There's always a small, unique idiosyncrasy to every business or a way they want to gain competitive advantage. And if you don't have a technology platform that supports these business initiatives, you may not get to what you want to be. Today, Magento has 30% market share in e-commerce. It's the world's leading e-commerce platform, and let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. If you look at the landscape, it's very, very crowded. There's a ton of e-commerce platforms out there, and if you're a small business, you use things like Volusion and BigCommerce that are SaaS platforms. Very, very easy for you to enter the market, very easy for you to start doing e-commerce. However, as your SKUs grow, as your number of transactions grow, as your business grows, you're going to outgrow those lower-end platforms. Then you can use readily available CMS on open source platforms like Drupal, Magento Community Edition, or Pimcore. Those are really good when you're a medium-sized business, but as open source platforms, they give you the opportunity to continue to grow. Magento Enterprise, on the other hand, has that ability now to keep up with all of those large proprietary applications. So you can scale from Magento Community Edition into Enterprise, and then Enterprise can continue to grow and match any sort of volume or any sort of enterprise level needs. And this is really important if you're in a business that's scaling very quickly. You don't want to constantly be changing platforms. We've had many clients that have asked us to move from BigCommerce to something or from different platforms, and that's really time consuming, and it really can interrupt your business continuity and your flow. We're using a platform like Magento where you can start as a small business and grow to the very largest enterprise in the world really helps make it more efficient, gives you a better way to do strategic planning, and really takes that technology transition out of the picture where you can focus on the platform that you have and focus more on your business, less on the technology. Magento comes with a lot of features. One of the beauties of open source is they've created communities that will regularly contribute. And with a community like Magento, it's amazing how many options and how many plugins and how much support you can get from a community that helps you to grow. If you're using a proprietary application, you know what they know and you know what they let you do, and it's very expensive if you want to do something outside of what they give you in the box. Magento comes with a lot of things in the box already: content management, search and navigation, and you can read through this list. I don't need to articulate it to you, but outside of that, the community will help provide plugins and integrations and different things that you need in order to make your business work. And because it's open source, if you have that idiosyncrasy that's not out of the box and not available by the community, OSSCube can make that change for you and make those customizations for you, so there is no constraint. Basically, you give us a vision, you give us a challenge, and we can meet that for you. So what's in it for you, right? What's in it for you is the ability to acquire more customers faster, the ability to increase the total value that you get from each one of those clients. We hear TCO all the time. It costs us a lot of money to acquire a customer. Once we get that customer, we want to maximize value from that customer. If we give them a great experience, we give them convenience, we give them what they want in terms of delivery and performance, then they're going to keep coming back for more. And oh, by the way, they're going to tell their friends. They say, I use this particular platform that happens to be based on Magento. I love this company. You should try this company. And then you get your customers to be force multipliers for you and help you to grow your business. So it's all about growing and scaling and having that technology platform that really helps you to achieve your business goals. I want to introduce Rakesh Kumar, who's our Vice President of Technology, and he's going to talk about a use case that we've completed, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of the implementation and the technology that's behind all of this. And Rakesh, take it away.
Thanks, John. Thanks, and hi, everyone. So like John said, I'm going to talk about a case study of building Magento-based e-commerce platform for a leading North American division of a global manufacturer. So, I mean, when they contacted us, they were tied to a legacy platform served by a vendor which did not give them a lot of flexibility and scalability and the business growth that they wanted to achieve for the enterprise. So the existing, the limitation of the existing platform, like the slow response time to the changing business demands and the changing customization requirement from the application, was also coming in the way. So we proposed Magento-based platform to create a modern solution for them, developing the whole platform from scratch and migrating them from the legacy service provider to this new platform. Initial goals was to achieve business continuity, and then we also took care of some of their future business requirements. So talking a little bit more about the problem, as I said, so the client is a leading American subsidiary of a global manufacturing company with product lines, more than 5,000 SKUs, and receive millions of visitors per month. And so, like I said, the biggest challenge that they came up when they contacted OSSCube was that their inability to change their e-commerce platform and extend it and scale it as per their growing business requirements. So due to the vendor lock-in and the slow responses from the vendor, the whole experience and the cost of getting any new customization done was very high for them. It was based on a very legacy architecture, like, as, for example, a simple integration between their backend system and the front store was based on the legacy way of file-based integration. So the backend store would put XML files into a central location, and then the front store will read that file. And any kind of data pushback to the backend system was again done through the same mechanism. So the front store will push some XML file, which the backend system will read from. So as a solution, what we did is we created the whole platform using Magento. And the biggest value addition of the solution was to give the control and the flexibility back to our client. So from the vendor lock-in and all the restrictions that they were experiencing to all the freedom to achieve whatever they want to through the new platform that we created for them. So we used Magento Enterprise Edition to create the new platform and migrated them from their legacy system. We took care of all the data migration, making sure that all their existing processes still worked. So all the integrations with their backend ERP system, we took care of. And we moved away from the legacy way of integration to the modern web services-based integration. So any kind of data exchange between the Magento store and their backend ERP was accomplished through the web services, RESTful web services call, and both real-time and batch mode. And this was something that they could not achieve in their previous platform. So some part of the front store required some real-time data fetching from the backend, and that's where we did the real-time integration through RESTful APIs. And a major component like pushing orders into the back office ERP system, or any kind of return request, pushing that back into the back office was managed through a batch-based integration. We also did a lot of third-party integrations. Some of them were like fraud protection integration and product reviews and payment gateways integrations. So all these third-party integrations also we took care of. And we also configured their production environment to meet the performance and the scalability requirement. So we took care of the application server, the database server, any kind of load balancing or replication that were needed to be configured. We took care of the entire configuration and managed the entire deployment process for them. And at the end, we trained the in-house team, both from technical standpoint as well as functional standpoint, so that they can take over the whole maintenance of the platform, the back-end application deployment platform, as well as the application. We gave them complete overview of how API worked and the technical overview of the Magento core framework as well as how we had configured the platform. So some of the technical highlights was It was deployed on a LAMP-based platform, so Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. We took care of the application database servers configuration with a load balancer in place for the traffic load balancing between multiple application servers, and also replication between database to achieve the high availability, which is HA that you see on the slide here. We used Magento Enterprise Edition 1.14 to build the platform. Now, in our development environment, we used Zen server with Z-Ray for profiling and root cause analysis and taking care of any kind of performance bottlenecks. So in our development environment, we ran various kind of tests. We ran various performance tests and looked at where the application was not responding or performing as per their expectations, and we took care of those either through configuration of the application or the platform. We also use Zen Studio in our development environment, which was integrated with the Zen server, so that really gave our developers a clear view from within their editor itself as to how the application was performing and in which section of the code was responding not very well. So that's something that we did for our development environment, and we have also proposed the same implementation for the production as well. Now let's talk a little bit about the overall solution architecture. So as you see, we used Magento as the core platform, which was integrated with the backend ERP system. So any orders that were created in Magento, we had integrated a third-party fraud detection service as well. So any order that was created had to first get passed from the fraud detection, and once it got passed, then those orders were pushed back into the backend ERP system for fulfillment. So the entire order fulfillment was being addressed or being taken care of through the ERP system. In addition, any kind of return request that was received on the Magento front store was pushed back into the ERP. Now, both these integrations were batch-based integrations. Now, from the backend ERP, any kind of return authorization. So when there was a return request made from the front store, the backend ERP would either authorize those returns or reject those returns. So those information were pushed back from the ERP to Magento, again through RESTful calls that Magento exposes. And any kind of shipment confirmation. So when a product was shipped to the customer, those information were also pushed to the Magento front store so that customers could be conveyed. So basically, Magento was the front face for the customer. Customer only needed to interact with Magento. They got all their information about their orders, their shipment, and the returns authorization, all that information through the Magento front store itself. Now, the basic product information, the inventory, and the pricing details were also pushed from the ERP system to Magento. Now, support administrators only needed to look at Magento admin's interface to answer any queries from the customer. So whether at what stage the order was, whether it was fulfilled, it was still not clear from the fraud, any kind of manual intervention required, all that kind of status was available to the sub-admins from the Magento interface itself. So that's what they use to support the customers. Let's look at the next deployment architecture. Now this is the deployment architecture, both the current and the future proposed architecture that we are still working with them. So in the current architecture, we have two application servers running Apache 2.x with a load balancer in front. And MySQL server, right now, the master is being used for both read-write operation, and there's a slave MySQL server, which is kind of more being used right now for high availability rather than performance. So it's like if there is any issue with the master, then slave will be used for failover. For performance, Redis is being used. So any request, any product-related request coming to the app server, first tries to read that from the Redis, and if it finds it there, it responds back with the information from there. Otherwise, gets the data from the database, pushes it to the Redis, and then responds back to the client as well. So that's the high-level deployment architecture currently. And future, we have proposed to have multiple application servers and the database cluster powered by MariaDB. Now, the database cluster is going to be a synchronous cluster as MariaDB supports. So we will have multiple database nodes which will have the data replicated across all the nodes in a synchronous way. Now, traditionally, the replication in MySQL is asynchronous, which is how it is configured currently. So with synchronous replication, the data exists on multiple nodes depending on the number of replicas configured. So it achieves both high availability as well as performance requirement. So this is something that we have proposed for keeping in mind the future scalability requirement. And the same goes for application servers. So we'll have multiple application servers to take care of the growing future traffic demands. And the same goes for cache. We'll have multiple cache servers as well. So that's the future deployment environment that we have proposed. We have also proposed Zen server-based application server to know the runtime behavior of application on the production. So instead of having to reproduce any issue, what Zen server does is it gives the whole information about the runtime behavior when the actual issue happens. And that's also something that we have proposed both for root cause analysis as well as from application performance. So that's about the deployment architecture. Now, the business value, some of which I already talked about, is for the enterprise, they got the freedom from the vendor login. So they were no longer dependent on a third-party vendor to take care of their customization needs, to take care of the agility that they wanted in their enterprise, to change their e-commerce platform, bring in new features, new customizations. So the whole platform is controlled by in-house team. They have already been trained both on the technology as well as the functional aspects of the platform. So they are currently sufficiently equipped to take care of the basic customization and enhancements as well. Modern platform which meets their future business requirements and much lower total cost of ownership compared to the previous platform that they had implemented. So that's the business value that we created for the enterprise. And for the IT and the products team, the flexibility of getting new customizations out there, since they own the platform, they can take care of it as and when they want. They can directly control the performance with growing business needs. And in fact, we are working closely with them to achieve the future scalability requirement, as I talked about in the previous slide as well. And they are in a better position to serve the internal stakeholders' demand about new products to be launched, new customizations to be done, new integrations that needs to be taken care of on the e-commerce platform with more agility. So it's been a win-win for all. I think I'll let John take care of the summary part. So go ahead, John.
Thank you, Rakesh. That was great. I hope everybody enjoyed the webinar today. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about the disruption in e-commerce and how the market's moving so quickly. We wanted to talk to you about a platform that we work with a lot that really can help you to grow from a very small company to one of the largest enterprises. We wanted to show you the benefits to you of how to gain new customers, gain loyalty and more value from each one of these customers, and help have a technology platform that supports your business objectives. Hope you all enjoyed the webinar today. Now let's open it up to questions.
Thank you, John, for that summary. And thank you, Rakesh, as well for that great case study. The first question we have here is, what were the biggest challenges you faced during this project?
Great question. And honestly speaking, there weren't many. Magento being a mature enterprise-level e-commerce platform, we found that the requirement and the expectations of client directly fit in to what Magento can do, either through out-of-the-box features that are present or through minor configuration and customization. And with the richness of third-party plugins that Magento has, we really did not find anything which was, more challenging than what we normally find in application and development and projects. So there weren't many, honestly.
Thank you. And next, So I've heard Magento has some performance issues. What has been your experience with this?
Again, a good question, and I hear that myself sometimes when I speak to new prospects. I think application performance comes from a combination of how the application and the runtime environment is configured. And based on what I've heard from many folks, I think most of the performance issues come from not having an optimal configuration for the amount of data, traffic, and the number of transactions that the store is receiving. So an out-of-the-box configuration on a single server environment may be enough for a small store, but may not be adequate for a store with thousands of transactions per minute and millions of visitors browsing through the product catalog. And I think that is true for any application out there. No application can perform consistently in the same way with varying traffic and data size, and that's where configuration and optimizations comes handy. Magento does provide best practices and guidelines for achieving the desired performance goals. So with the combination of Magento runtime configuration, tuning PHP, MySQL, and Apache runtime, and having the right hardware configuration for traffic load balancing and data caching, I think the desired performance goals can be achieved. We at OSSCube established the key non-functional expectations like response time, performance, and future scalability requirement from the platform in the beginning of the project itself, and perform the required application and hardware configuration to achieve the performance goals. So like in this case, we were able to achieve the desired sub-second response time with a good amount of traffic, concurrent traffic hitting the site. Yeah.
Thanks. All right, looks like we have time for one more question. So as you know, Magento was recently acquired by eBay. Do you think this will have an impact on the open source technology?
I don't think so. The biggest advantage of Magento is that it being open source. And I don't think eBay would like to lose that. I mean, that would be a big loss. And I think the Magento enjoying the biggest market share in the e-commerce world also comes from the fact that it being an open source LAMP-based platform. One of the biggest reasons why our customer contacted us and they agreed to use Magento as the platform was primarily because it being an open source. And that gave them the control and the flexibility of any kind of customization and enhancement they wanted. I don't think eBay would want to lose it, so I don't think anything would change.
All right, thank you, Rakesh. That about wraps us up. We're kind of out of time. I'd like to thank everybody again for joining us. If you have any further questions, you can contact us either through our website, info@osscube.com, or reply to one of those emails. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.